2025 was a very strange year of games for me. A year of expectations turned on their heads. Some releases that I expected to gush over ended up kind of disappointing me, while a handful of the games that I expected to hate somehow ended up on my Game of the Year candidate list. But throughout the course of 2025, there were maybe a dozen or so games that really blew me away. Games bizarre and singular and enchanting. Games that draw upon ideas beloved and established and synthesize them with new ideas, new vision, new energy and passion, fresh perspective, and creativity. And so I wanted to highlight a handful of my favorites from the year that deserve special mention, not only because I think they're great games in isolation, but also because they are games that give me hope for the future of video games. In a medium in an industry that seems increasingly dead set, on downplaying the importance of artistry and humanity, on moving away from what I perceive as meaningful and immersive experiences, and toward games that function like storefronts, games whose menus remind me of opening up Hulu on a hotel television. And so, my first Game of the Year 2025 is... Ooh. The words masterpiece and love letter to gaming. These are terms that I hear from people talking about video games way too much, so allow me to just bypass them entirely. Ooh is not a masterpiece or a love letter. Ooh is fucking perfect. I do not think you could improve this game by changing a single thing. The only thing I would be tempted to change is I wish there was more of this game, but to add more of this game to this game would disrupt the perfect simplicity of Ooh. It's a small game by its very design. A densely concentrated, hyper-focused, extremely pure Metroidvania that both satisfies and leaves you wanting more. And when I say it's a pure, concentrated Metroidvania, allow me to substantiate that. In a typical Metroidvania, you get a number of power-ups that allow you to pass new obstacles. You get your Samus ball, you get the frost rifle. In Ooh, there are only 2 power-ups in the entire game. The first one is a bomb, and the second one is another bomb. But Ooh is about more fundamental power-ups than lightning balls and snow guns. I hate the term Metroidbrania, but this is a Metroidbrania. This is a game where the power-ups are enhancing your mind, where you reach the end of a biome in Ooh. The spot where in Super Metroid, Samus gets the power to turn into electricity. But in Ooh, the electricity is it's the neurons in your brain integrating the new game rule or mechanic or insight that Ooh's revelatory puzzle design has bestowed upon you like a gift, like a snowflake of game design that melts on your tongue. And Ooh's confidence in this approach is written into the game. When you reach the end of a biome, the only thing you'll find most of the time is a warp point back to the rest of the world that you've already explored. Except now you have new knowledge in your brain to tackle things in new ways. And I think that's so beautiful to have so much confidence in your design, that the reward for a player for reaching the end of a sequence of puzzles is a dead end and a wink and a nod. An unspoken challenge from the developer to go back and reconsider things you've seen with fresh eyes. Ooh is not just a sequence of puzzle rooms that are masterfully cohered into a larger Metroidvania. Ooh is a teaching machine of terrifying efficiency. Its puzzles are so well designed that occasionally you hit upon one that wordlessly telepaths a new previously unknown mechanic into your mind through pure intuition. And without even realizing it, you've learned something and you are applying it instantly, like a baby bird that fears a looming predator it has never seen. Like some sort of fundamental evolutionary part of my being was born knowing how to play Ooh, and it simply has to be shaken by the shoulders until it comes online. And then at other times in Ooh, it doesn't click, and you hit the wall. And you find yourself pushing up against the tension between what you know about the world and what you need to understand about it. But when these moments of friction give way, it's unbelievably gratifying. Especially some of Ooh's secret content that I'm not going to spoil here gets into territory where I was ripping my hair out in that sounds terrible, but it was a very satisfying experience. To me, this is like a golden age of Nintendo level of quality. I played Super Metroid for the first time this year, and I had a better Metroid experience with Ooh, which I know is blasphemy, and also deeply subjective. Like, that's personal taste, but I mean, I played them back to back. At the end of the day, game design is often sort of a transmission of an idea from the designer's mind to your mind in a way that ideally does not require words to communicate. Game design is itself a language that can be understood non-verbally. The example I always like to give is the hallway in Dark Souls 2, where the floor is poison and there's arrows shooting down the hallway, and you stare down that hallway, and as you question, how am I going to tackle this? You can feel the designer of that dungeon winking at you through the ether, like a sort of joke told in the language of game design. Game design is a language that is capable of humor, of pathos, of drama, of so many things. And in that sense, Ooh is like one of the best novellas I've ever read. It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point, every room shines with intention, and every second of this game feels necessary and dense with some of the most pure video game joy I've experienced in years. If Ooh is a game that I enjoy because it makes me feel smart, Birdcage is a game that I enjoy because it makes me feel like I'm bad at video games. Like, I really enjoy hard games, and very rarely do I go, oh god, this might just be too hard for me. Like I'm your grandmother and you just handed me the controller. Birdcage exists in a genre of shmups and bullet hells and Toho games that I am an alien to. They look like the kind of thing that you do like a tool-assisted run on, where the entire screen just fills with a fractal cascade of bullets, and no human being could possibly navigate that. But lo and behold, across 4 furious hours of smashing my head against the birdcage, I was able to complete the game on normal. And to complete a game that halfway through you think I could never beat this game, it's a very unique experience. I think that is part of what makes me love Birdcage so much.
But this game is so much more than just its difficulty. It's also like a profound flow state inducer. It has absolutely gorgeous artwork,
a tight and compelling narrative that reminds me of Xenogears, tangible and delightful homage to things like Metal Gear Solid, and far and away one of the best soundtracks of the year. In fact, I think Birdcage and Look Outside are neck and neck for best soundtracks of the year. Perhaps the greatest achievement of all of Birdcage is that it converted me into a believer in this genre. A genre that I falsely perceived as sort of like a purely mechanical genre, that these were arcade games. These weren't like art-filled experiences that give you like cool experiences. These were just like games you pour $100 in quarters into at the arcade that you can only play if you're some sort of like a Adderall-ridden gaming god. And so one of the best endorsements I can give to Birdcage is that after completing it, not only did I continue to play Birdcage on harder difficulties, but it also made me want to play more games like this. And any game so good in isolation that it can open me up to a new genre that I previously thought of as not for me, I mean, if that's not Game of the Year material, what is?
And the final game that I'd like to rant about on my Game of the Year shortlist, Angeline Era.
Angeline Era is perhaps the best example of what I was referring to in the intro. A synthesis of the old and the new, something that taps into a sense of nostalgia, capital N nostalgia. Like it is taking the feeling of old games and bringing it into new context and breathing new life into it. It's not leaning on nostalgia as a tool to bypass my critical faculties. It's more so that it feels like it's picking up where games that I loved back in the day left off, in a very authentic and real way. Angeline Era is a bump/action RPG. An action RPG from sort of a top-down perspective where you don't push a button to swing the sword, you just hit enemies at the right angle and bump into them. Therefore, the gameplay of Angeline Era becomes more about positioning and timing and understanding patterns and cadences and rhythms of battle. It becomes about sticking yourself in the right spot so that you avoid taking damage from an enemy, and then as they come at you, you bump them into the wall for massive damage. And in isolation, I think this is an incredibly fun battle system. But what really makes Angeline Era shine is the way that it couches this very fun micro-level gameplay into a world that is both massive and incredibly focused at the same time. It's sort of like a paradoxical open world. Angeline Era has an overworld with levels and towns on it that you need to find through its very unique discovery mechanic, which alone gives the world a real feeling of secrecy and that it holds mysteries and that every corner of the world could potentially hold more mysteries. But on top of this, the openness of its overworld makes the game feel infinitely larger than I think it actually is. And I think this is a good thing, because the inverse of this is open worlds that are full of nothing. Like some AAA open worlds that are just absolutely massive. But ultimately, it's like I'd rather fast travel between them because it feels like that massiveness holds no possibility, that it is physical space, but not possibility space. Whereas Angeline Era is a smaller amount of space that feels massive because of its possibility space. And part of this is sort of like a magic trick. Angeline Era does a lot of things. There are a lot of things that you can find, and they feel weird and bespoke and authored and specific and mysterious and different. And so it doesn't feel like I'm searching every corner of the world to find one of 3 possible outcomes. It feels more like any corner of the world could potentially hold little bespoke crumbs of mystery left there by the developers. This is exemplified to me in the way that treasure chests operate in this game. In Angeline Era, treasure chests can hold, the items that exist in the game. But after you get the items in the chest, if you smash the chest says, like, strange, obtuse, philosophical, sincere, or irreverent things to you. Some of which make me laugh, some of which make me feel massive feelings. And that is an accomplishment to me, is that the treasure chest, they don't just hold healing items, that the treasure chests hold, like, that there are emotions in the treasure chest, that these are, like, emotion-containing chests. Which is crazy. You can't have like an emotional inventory in a game, and yet somehow Angeline Era has managed to materialize such a bizarre vision. And its writing beyond this just feels sincere. And let me be very clear, when I say sincere, I do not mean cozy, wholesome sincere, where everyone is just like, hey man, I just want you to know I love you. Angeline Era deals with some dark shit. The aesthetic of this game being sort of like N64 adjacent. You might be like, oh, is there like an Ocarina of Time thing going on here? But if anything, there's more like a Majora's Mask thing going on here. There's some weird dark shit that happens in this game, and it's cool. It's like dark, mythological, pagan, earthy, weird, emotive shit. I just think this game is special on so many levels. I've always found analgesics games to be an interesting meshing of fun and artistic. But to me, it's like the most fun game that they've ever made, and I think that that's cool. It's an idea that I reference a lot, but there's a Martin Scorsese idea that if you're going to try to say something profound in a movie, that you should put it in a genre movie. That if you're gonna make a movie about like fear of death or something, don't just make like the fear of death movie because no one wants to see that. You make like a gangster movie or like a western, and then in the recognizable genre that people understand, you Trojan horse in bigger ideas and make them feel things. You take them by surprise with the bigger, more complex things. And to me, Angeline Era is a game that does that with its gameplay. It is so recognizable as a video game, but then you're just blindsided by like these sincere little nuggets about religion and death and life. I don't know. It's just great. Angeline Era is confirmation of a transformative idea that bubbles perennially beneath the surface of an unsustainable games industry. That games which turn away from unnecessarily photorealistic fidelity and megapixel rock scans and hundreds of millions of dollars in budget and teams of several hundred people in favor of smaller, more focused, more experimental, sincere, imaginative games is what this industry needs. It's what this medium needs. The vast majority of what I describe as the quote-unquote best games of all time aren't games with insane levels of fidelity. They're games like Silent Hill, made by smaller, incredibly devoted teams of devs with a powerful, original vision. And to me, Angeline Era has inserted itself into this growing body of evidence that these types of games are the future, especially in direct juxtaposition to larger developers that are increasingly moving towards unsustainably large budgets that require games to be a moonshot bet on some hyper-corporatized product. So there you have it. Those are just a few of what I consider the games of the year 2025. But this is far from a comprehensive list, so I'm looking forward to the annual Game of the Year chats that we do on the podcast. Thank you sincerely for supporting this channel and following the work we do. I'm genuinely really looking forward to 2026. I have a lot of ideas for what I think NoClip 2 could be, and next year is the year that I would really like to kick it into action and start actualizing those visions. So I look forward to it, and I hope you are also looking forward to it. And I hope that you have a beautiful Game of the Year season, and then you play a lot of games, and then you have meaningful experiences with them.